Today I have a message from Archangel Metatron. And in this message, he wants you to know a little bit about how traditional schools came up. So, I'm a holistic therapist, but I also work at an elementary. I've actually been working with children since I was a teenager myself. So, good over 20 something years. So, I was talking to some colleagues and friends about their frustrations with children not learning to read fast enough. And I thought about how my reading learning process was. I feel like I mainly memorized all the words that I could and read them back to the teacher as they needed them. And then eventually I did learn the phonetics and all the grammatical rules and everything. But I kept wondering if that's what a lot of the kids are doing. The ones that have a good memory are probably memorizing all the words possible, and that's why they get to second, third, fourth grade, and they don't know how to read and write properly because they just memorized it. They didn't really learn how to do it. And in thinking about all of this, Archangel Metatron um, came and explained something to me. Metatron was talking about how we expect for our children to sit in a school or in a classroom for hours and be attentive to the teachers. Yet, that's not how learning is supposed to be. Learning was originally something that we acquired, or knowledge was acquired through daily activities. Everybody was given a task or a chore, and in those activities, things that we call academic right now were already embedded in it. You had to count to make sure you had enough food, to make sure you had water, to make sure you had resources, and to make sure that all of those in your community or tribe were with you in determined moments. You had to be aware of distances and times so that you could plan a trip, or just being, if you were a nomadic tribe or a group, you had to plan accordingly when you were moving. You had to know where to stop, where to find water. So that would also bring in maps, learning how to read cycles, like the seasons or the moon cycle, learning how to read the stars or just find your way around. And Metatron said that the information was passed down through storytelling, whether it was to share, um, a lesson of moral character, or to share information on how to follow a recipe for cooking, for medicine, or just information that you wanted to pass down for like historical events or any important events that you wanted to remember. Everything was memorized, so everybody had a good memory, and perhaps not everybody, but most of the people did. So that's how they kept the information. And maybe if somebody didn't have good memory, um, they would rely on the rest of the community to um, remind them or share all that stuff with them. And they would look out for each other. And everything had a purpose. All the learning they did was not so much conscious in the sense that they knew that they had to sit down and learn it. It was just a way of living, and they had to learn how to cook and um, how to farm, or how to find food, how to hunt, how to find water. And so that's what they did. And it had all this learning had a process. Well, eventually, um, they started learning how to write and things like that. And a small group of people decided that they wanted to keep all control of knowledge. And that's where they started coming up with like scrolls and paper where they would write stuff, and they would start keeping it from the community. And they would make up rules of roles and who had to do what job and who could live this way or that way. And basically, they were telling everybody how to live and that they were in charge. Of course, the people did try to riot in a sense to try to get to recover their information and still be able to keep on to all the knowledge. And so that's pretty much where school started, because then those small group of people in control, they started they started sharing what they wanted and teaching what they wanted. And if they wanted to modify anything that they had, they would just write it in a separate scroll and share that. Of course, they would keep all the information that would make them lose the control or the power to themselves and pass it down to those who were going to take over after they were gone. Um, and all of this people started demonizing all the communities that kept passing this information orally. Like we see it with Native Americans or natives or original people, however you want to call them, those people original to those lands. They they try to get rid of them, and we know what happened. We know that they unlived them, they killed them. So they didn't kill everybody. A lot of people still kept trying to pass down the information, and that's how we have a lot of information, because there were souls that decided that there were souls that decided to come to Earth and be able to continue all this sharing through storytelling or just word of mouth. But that's how we ended up on this having this traditional schools. Eventually, Metatron says we tried to change it, and that's where things like charter schools or other methods came up. And but then they also fell into that pattern of controlling who had the information and who didn't. So, um, they still control what is being taught, not as much as maybe a public school, but it still happens. And Metatron says, keep trying because you're doing a good job. Um, you are doing your best. Eventually, you will get there, but you have to let go of all these rules that were imposed on you um, through schooling, through religions. And I'm not saying give up your religion. If this is something that you are close to and that you are fond of, keep your religion. But no, you got to be more conscious of what you believe and what you understand as being they're trying to control you. And I know it's easier said than done, but Metatron cheers us on and tells us to keep trying and keep going and understand that everybody learns in a different way and has a different learning process. And as long as we keep on it, we'll eventually get to it. Um, and we just gotta keep teaching our kids, giving them a purpose for learning, and not just because you have to sit in the classroom for 8 hours and listen to that teacher that probably is not connecting with you, or because you can't listen because other things are going on at home. And that's a whole different um, issue, subject, topic of what might be affecting your learning and at that moment, because it's there's a lot of things that could be getting in the way, and it's not just learning disabilities, it's basic needs and things that are not being met. But that's essentially what what I picked up, or what I was able to channel from Archangel Metatron. And I really do hope this message reaches parents and educators or family members that deal with children and get frustrated because they're not adding, multiplying, because they're not reading or writing 5, 10, 20 page essays. Um, let's give them a purpose. Let's give them a reason, not just the because I say so. And I know a lot of us grew up with that because I say so. um, and some are have it a harder time to let it go. But let's let's be compassionate, and let's um, embrace that everybody has a different way of learning, and try to go back to the old ways of learning in the sense that we apply it to a daily life and how we use it in daily life. I had a difficult time or a challenging time learning how to do algebra, like n- not the easy one that you do in like elementary, but high school algebra and calculus and all that stuff, trigonometry, geometry from high school and on. I had a very difficult time because I have a good memory, but if it's not clicking with me or it's not making sense to me, then it's harder for me to learn it. I can memorize a whole encyclopedia if you want me to, and I might be exaggerating, but I can. I'm also a medical interpreter, and I can interpret up to like maybe one paragraph or two, um, maybe 5 minutes of somebody talking, and I might not do it word for word because one, you can't really do that when you're going from one language to another. But I can listen to a person for like 5 minutes and then turn around and interpret what they say and still keep the essence. And um, but I cannot currently at the moment deal with algebra and trigonometry and all that stuff because it doesn't make sense to me right now. If I ever find somebody that can teach it, I would be open to learning it. But right now, I don't need it. There's no purpose for me. So it's harder for me to understand it and learn it because I don't have a purpose. So, yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to share. I really do hope that you have a wonderful day, evening, um, and that this helps you understand yourself and your child even more.